So the alimentary canal. The alimentary canal is a long tube which runs from your mouth to your anus. Okay, it's a part of the digestive system. We know that our system consists of many organs, and the alimentary canal is not an organ, but the alimentary canal contains different types of organs like esophagus, small intestine, large intestine, and a lot. The digestive system also includes the liver and the pancreas. Okay, so liver and pancreas are organs. The wall of the alimentary canal contains muscles which contract and relax to make food move along. This movement is called peristalsis. So peristalsis is the contraction and relaxation of the muscles of the alimentary canal so that the food molecules can travel from our mouth to the anus. And if you want to imagine the movement of peristalsis, I cannot draw here. So in your YouTube, search by writing peristalsis and you will find animation of peristalsis. Okay. Sometimes it is necessary to keep the food in one part of the alimentary canal for a while before it is allowed to move to the next part. Special muscles can close the tube completely in certain places. They are called spinster muscles. So say for example our food passed from our mouth to the stomach. Now it needs to be in the stomach for a few times so that the food proteins can be digested. So there are muscles called spinster muscles which are going to contract. So that contract means to shorten in size. So if the alimentary canal, the part of the alimentary canal at the end of the stomach contracts, the food cannot travel from the stomach to the intestines, and so it stays in the stomach for a longer time. And the muscles that do this are called spinster muscle. To help food to slide easily through the alimentary canal, it is lubricated with mucus. Mucus is made in the goblet cells which occur along the alimentary canal. So all along the alimentary canal from our mouth to the anus, we have goblet cells that produce mucus. So mucus is a slippery substance which makes food to slide easily. It acts as a lubricant. Okay, but you do not need this in your O levels, but hear this, that mucus is composed of inorganic salts, antiseptic enzymes, immunoglobulin and glycoproteins. Okay, but you do not have to learn by heart this for your O levels, but it's good to know because you are a student of biology. Okay, so each section of the alimentary canal has its own part to play in the digestion, absorption and digestion of food. We know what is digestion, breaking down of large molecules into smaller ones. Absorption is absorbing the digested food into the blood so that they can be used by the cell. And digestion is the process of excreting the undigested food in the form of feces from the rectum to outside of the body through the anus. Okay. Figure 1.7.17 shows the main organs of the digestive system. You need to identify which organ is which part for your O level, so go through the picture thoroughly. Okay, now one thing I need to be sure that you know what is the meaning of organ system. So say for example specialized cell. A group of specialized cell makes a tissue. Like blood is a tissue composed of different kinds of specialized cells like red blood cells, white blood cells. Okay, and a group of tissues makes an organ. Like say for example the blood vessels is an organ because it contains different layer of tissues, tunica intima, tunica media, tunica externa, and so like a different types of specialized tissues containing specialized same type of specialized cell is called an organ. But a group of organs makes an organ system. Like respiratory system is an organ system. The organs that the respiratory systems have are lungs and basically the lungs and blood vessels, and like excretory system is a system which contains the organs kidney, ureters, urinary bladder, urethra, skin, lungs. Okay, yes, skin is also an organ because it consists of different layers of tissues. Each tissue consists of like group of specialized cells. Okay, so now we have understood what is cell, tissue, organ and organ system. Let's move on. The mouth is an organ. So food is ingested using the teeth, lips and tongue. Ingestion is the process of taking in food. So the teeth then bite or grind the food into smaller pieces, increasing its surface area. We have known that why increased surface area is needed. Increased surface area is needed because there will be more area available to the enzymes to work. The tongue mixes the food with saliva and forms it into a bolus. The bolus is then swallowed. So what is a bolus? The bolus is when the food has been bitten and formed into a shape like oval shape like this. This is the food that has been ingested. When the food has been bitten and also mixed with saliva, and then when we engulf it, the peristalsis makes it into a shape like this, and this is called a bolus. Okay, this because peristalsis is like a wave movement, and so the bolus is easily transferred. When this will relax, this will contract and the bolus will move in this direction. Okay. Okay, saliva is made in the salivary glands. It is a mixture of water, mucus and the enzyme amylase. The water helps to dissolve substances in the food, allowing us to taste them. The mucus helps the chewed food to bind together to form a bolus and lubricates it so that it can slide easily down the esophagus when it is swallowed. We know what is esophagus. Look at the diagram. Amylase begins to digest starch in the food to the sugar maltose. We know what is maltose. Maltose is a disaccharide composed of 2 units of glucose joined by alpha-1,4 glycosidic linkage, and you do not know the definition of alpha-1,4 glycosidic linkage. That's because you will learn it in your A levels, and there is also you do not need this for your O levels. I'm just giving you some extra information because you're a student of biology. And there is also another isomer of maltose called isomaltose, which is composed of 2 units of glucose units are joined by alpha-1,6 glycosidic linkage. But you do not need this for your O levels. So usually it does not have time to finish this because the food is not kept in the mouth for very long. However, if you chew something starchy for a long time, you may be able to taste the sweet maltose that is produced. Okay, so now you may have one question, that is, what is the meaning of a gland? A gland is also an organ, but it is made to, it is specialized in making chemicals and it can be secreted into the body. And yeah, so that is a gland, and hormones are produced by glands. And they are secreted into the body, hormones are secreted into the body directly into the bloodstream. Okay, so the esophagus. There are 2 tubes leading down from the back of the mouth. The one in the front is the trachea or windpipe, which takes air down to the lungs. Okay, behind the trachea is the esophagus, which takes food down to the stomach. So trachea is an organ of the respiratory system, and esophagus is the organ of digestive system. Behind the trachea is the esophagus, which takes food down to the stomach. When you swallow, a piece of cartilage covers the entrance of the trachea. It is called the epiglottis, and if it stops food from going into the lung. Say we are eating food, there are 2 tubes, so we need something to control that food goes through which tubes and air goes through which tubes. So this door, or this directional changing door which does this, is called epiglottis. Now you may have one question, that what is the meaning of cartilage? Cartilage is firm, flexible, connective tissue. So cartilage is a tissue, but it is firm and it is flexible so that it can move, closing one door and closing one side and opening another, and then again move to close this side and open that side. And these sides are like trachea and esophagus. Okay. The entrance to the stomach from the esophagus is guarded by a ring of muscle called a spinster. This muscle relaxes to let the food pass to the stomach. We have already known this. Now the stomach has strong muscular walls. The muscles contracts and relax to churn the food and mix it with the enzyme and mucus. Churning means, you know, to like crush it even more, and so that it is kept mixing, so that the enzymes, all of the enzymes can bind with all of the substrates to make the product. The mixture is called a chyme. Okay, so the mixture of food with enzymes and mucus is called a chyme. Like so chyme is produced in the stomach and bolus is produced in the mouth. Do not be confused. Okay. Like all parts of the alimentary canal, the stomach wall contains goblet cells which secrete mucus. It also contains other cells which produce protease enzymes and others which make hydrochloric acid. These are situated in the pits in the stomach wall. We can see from figure 7.18. Every diagram there is. Learn by heart them so that you can identify which part is what. So we will know that why hydrochloric acid is needed. And protease enzyme is not like a single kind of enzyme. There is protease, there is trypsin, there are like peptidases. So different kinds of enzymes that breaks protein molecules are called protease, and they have their own role. The main protease enzyme in stomach is pepsin. It begins to digest proteins by breaking them into polypeptides. Pepsin works best in acid condition. The acid also helps to kill any bacteria in the food. Okay, so there is nothing to understand. So pepsin is the main protease enzyme. Renin is only produced in the stomach of young mammals. It causes milk that they get from their mothers to clot. The milk proteins are then broken down by pepsin. So renin is not a protease, but it helps for the proteins in the milk to clot so that they can be easily digested by proteins, and it is only in like young mammals. The stomach can store food for quite a long time. After 1 or 2 hours, the sphincter at the bottom of the stomach opens and let the chyme into the duodenum. Okay, we know what is the duodenum. It's the U-shaped structure down the stomach. Okay, so now the small intestine. The small intestine is the part of the alimentary canal between the stomach and the colon. It is about 5 meters long. Learn by heart this. It is called the small intestine because it is quite narrow. Different parts of the small intestine have different names. The first part nearest to the stomach is the duodenum. The last part nearest to the colon is the ileum. Several enzymes are secreted into the duodenum. They are made in the pancreas, which is a cream-colored gland lying just beneath the stomach. We know that pancreas is also an organ, and the function is to produce the enzymes. Pancreas has other functions like producing hormone, but for the digestive system we need it to produce the enzymes for digestion, and the enzymes are secreted into the duodenum. So the enzymes from the pancreas are found from the duodenum, not in the stomach. A tube called the pancreatic duct leads from the pancreas into the duodenum. Pancreatic juice, which is a fluid made by the pancreas, flows along the tube. So pancreatic juice contains the enzymes. The fluid contains many enzymes including amylase, protease and lipase. Amylase breaks down starch to maltose. Trypsin is a protease which breaks down proteins to polypeptides. Lipase breaks down fats to fatty acids and glycerol. But we will know that these enzymes work best in less acidic condition. But from the stomach we got hydrochloric acid, so the pancreatic juice will also contain a base to neutralize the acid. And we know that all glands are specialized to secreting chemicals. We can see here that pancreatic juice has secreted pancreas has secreted the pancreatic juice. Salivary gland secreted the saliva. Okay, and glands are organs. Don't be confused, but not organs are glands. These enzymes do not work well in acid environments, but the chyme which has come from the stomach contains hydrochloric acid. Pancreatic juice contains sodium hydrogen carbonate, which partially neutralizes the acid. You have to write partially neutralizes. It do not neutralize, but it partially neutralizes. Okay, so now bile. As well as pancreatic juice, another fluid flows into the duodenum. It is called the bile. Bile is a yellowish green alkaline watery liquid which helps to neutralize the acidic mixture from the stomach. It is made in the liver and then stored in the gallbladder. It flows to the duodenum along the bile duct. Bile does not contain any enzymes. It does, however, help to digest fats. So the bile is not secreted by the pancreas. It is secreted by the bile duct and it is stored in the bile. So bile is not a part of the pancreatic juice. It, however, helps to fat digest. It does this by breaking up large droplets of fats into smaller ones, making it easier for the lipids in the pancreatic juice to digest them into fatty acids and glycerol. This is called emulsification and it is done by salts in the bile called the bile salts. So the bile salts emulsifies fats. It does not digest the fats to fatty acids and glycerol. What it does is, it's very easy to understand. So this is a large fat molecule. The enzymes cannot digest them easily, but if you break them into smaller pieces, this is not fatty acids and glycerol, these are fats, just smaller pieces, because fat molecules enter, fat molecules are, they enter in bunch, okay, fat globules. So we need to break the fat globules into smaller globules, fat globules, smaller fat globules, so that when the lipase will work and form them, these are fats. When the lipase will work, the enzyme works and breaks them into fatty acids and glycerol. It will be easier for the enzymes because increased surface area helps a chemical reaction to occur at a faster rate. Emulsification is a type of mechanical digestion. There is no type of chemical reaction. It mechanically digests the larger fat globules into smaller fat globules. Okay, this is the point. This point is very much important. Bile also contains yellowing bile pigment. These are made by the liver where it breaks down old red blood cells. The bile pigments are made from hemoglobin. The pigments are not needed by the body, so they are eventually excreted in the feces. So the yellowish liquid is actually the bile. Okay, so the yellowish bile pigments, yellowish pigments of the bile cause the yellow color of the feces, and they are not used in any reaction. They are just excreted. So yeah, they are excreted by the body. They are not used in any chemical reactions because these are the excretory products made from breaking down the old red blood cells. Villi. As well as receiving enzymes made in the pancreas, the small intestine makes some enzymes itself. They are made by the cells in the walls. So villi also, we just known that all of the enzymes in the intestines comes from the pancreatic juice, and before that there were some from stomach and some from the salivary gland. But now we know that the villi in the intestine, small intestine, large intestine, makes some enzymes. The inner wall of all parts of the small intestine, the duodenum and ileum, is covered with millions of tiny projections. So the small intestine also makes some enzyme, not the large intestine, the small intestine. They are called villi. So villi are in the inner wall of all parts of the small intestine, and they can form, they can make some enzymes themselves. So each villi is about 1 millimeter long. Learned by heart this. Cells covering the villi makes enzymes. The enzymes do not come out of the lumen, come out into the lumen of the small intestine, but stay close to the cells which make them. These enzymes complete the digestion of the food. So the enzymes that are produced from the villi, they are not secreted into the lumen of the intestine. So what do you mean by lumen? The lumen is the hollow part of the intestines, like if this is the intestine from side view, if we cut it and look it from above, with the intestine is actually hollow. Okay, so this hollow part is called the lumen. This is the longitudinal view and this is the transverse view. Okay, this is the longitudinal view, this is the transverse view. Fine. The carbohydrates enzyme maltase breaks down maltase to glucose. So we have learned before that amylase breaks down starch to maltose, and maltase breaks down maltose to glucose. So both maltase and amylase are carbohydrates. Okay, carbohydrates is not a specific type of enzyme. It is a group of enzyme that digests only carbohydrates, maybe in a different degree. So proteases finish breaking down any polypeptide into amino acids. Lipase completes the breakdown of fats to fatty acids and glycerol. Absorption of digested food. Now that our food has been digested into its monomers, they need to be absorbed by the body, by the bloodstream, so that they can be used in the cells. Because the cells can take in monomers and the blood vessels can take in monomers. Large molecules cannot pass through them. That's why we needed the system of digestion, that is the digestive system. By now, most carbohydrates have been broken down to simple sugars, proteins to amino acids, and fats to fatty acids and glycerol. These molecules are small enough to pass through the wall of the small intestine and into the blood. This is called absorption. The small intestine is especially adapted to allow absorption to take place very efficiently. Some of its features are listed in table 7.1. Why the small intestine is much more adapted to absorption? We need to look at this. I need to learn by heart these features. It is very long, about 5 millimeter in adult human. Since it is 5 millimeter long, it has higher surface area. This gives plenty of time for digestion to be completed and for digested food to be absorbed as it slowly passes through. So since it is long, the digestion can take place for a longer period of time. It is villi. Each villus is covered with cells which have been even smaller projection on them called microvilli. So villi contains microvilli. This gives the inner surface of the wall intestine a very large surface area. The large surface area, the faster nutrients can be absorbed. So it's normal. If through a small door, say 10 molecules can pass, if we have thousands of doors, so many molecules can pass. It's a matter of common sense. Villi contains blood capillaries. Monosaccharides, amino acids, water, minerals and vitamins and some fats pass into the blood to be taken to the liver and then around the body. So villi contains blood capillaries for which absorption is possible. If there are no blood capillaries, absorption was not possible, because absorption is like to take the food into the blood vessels so that they can be traveled around the body. So blood is a member of the circulatory system. Villi contains lacteals which are part of the lymphatic system. Fats are absorbed into the lacteals. So fats are absorbed into the lacteals, and fats are not absorbed into the blood capillaries. A specialized blood vessels called lacteals absorb fat. Villi have walls only 1 cell thick. The digested nutrients can easily cross the wall to reach the blood capillaries and lacteals. If the wall was thicker, the monomer, that is the digested nutrients, needed to pass a longer distance. But since the walls are thin, that is only 1 cell thick, they have less boundary to pass, and so they can pass easily, and absorption takes place at a faster rate. Now, the large intestine. All of the diagram you will learn to identify which part is what. There is also diagram of the villi in figure 7.22. The large intestine, the colon and rectum are sometimes called the large intestine. So the colon and rectum are called the large intestine because they are wider tubes than the duodenum and ileum. Not all food that is eaten can be digested, and this undigested food cannot be absorbed in the small intestine. It travels on through the caecum, past the appendix and into the colon. In humans, the caecum and appendix have no function. In the colon, more water and salts are absorbed. However, the colon absorbs much less water than the small intestine. So the colon, is the large intestine, do not have that much of function. It just stores the undigested food, passes it to the rectum, but a small amount of absorption of water takes place there, and no digestion takes place there. And the caecum and appendix have no function. By the time the food reaches the rectum, most of the substances which can be absorbed have gone into the blood. All that remains is undigestible food, bacteria, and some dead cells from inside of the alimentary canal. This mixture forms the feces, which are passed out at intervals through the anus. This process is called egestion, and there is also bile pigments, yellowish pigments, because the pigments are not used. They are part of the excretory products. Okay, now there is a diagram 7.6. I've seen this diagram and there is nothing for me to make you understand. So you will learn by heart this diagram. Okay, all of the digested juices contain water and mucus. The water is used for the digestion of large molecules, the smaller one. It is used for solvent, for nutrients, and the mucus acts as a lubricant. It is also from covering over the large inner surface of the alimentary canal, preventing enzymes from digesting the cells. So there is also another function in mucus, that mucus forms a covering over the inner surface of the alimentary canal, preventing enzymes from digesting the cells. So mucus forms a coating in the inner walls, in the outer walls of the alimentary canal, so that the digestive enzymes do not digest the alimentary canal itself. This is another function of the mucus, and other things you know and you will understand, so learn by heart them. And key definitions also learn by heart this. There is nothing for me to make you understand. Now, diarrhea, this is a disease. Okay, so diarrhea is the loss of watery feces. It happens when not enough water is absorbed from the feces. If not enough water is absorbed in the small intestine, the feces will have a lot of water, and so watery feces will be excreted. This disease is called diarrhea. In most people, a bout of diarrhea is just an annoyance, but if it is severe and goes on for a long time, it is dangerous illness, because since the water couldn't be absorbed, your osmotic property of your blood and your cell, the tissue, that is the environment of the cell, which is the tissue, will be changed, and so there will be a problem in the osmotic movement of water molecules, and so you may suffer from serious illness. Okay, so water absorption is needed because we need a lot of water in our body. 75% of our body is water, and this water is obtained from absorption from the small intestine. We drink the water, but it is absorbed in the small intestine. But if it is not absorbed, it is a disease. Diarrhea is the second largest cause of death in young children in the world. The greatest cause is pneumonia. A person with severe diarrhea can lose dangerous amounts of water and salts from their body, causing some of their tissue and organs to stop working, because a difference in osmotic property. There will be a difference in osmotic property. We have learned what is osmotic property before. The simplest and most effective way to treat a person suffering from severe diarrhea is to give them oral rehydration therapy. This involves giving a drink containing water with small amounts of salts and sugar dissolved in it, because the dissolved salts and sugar cannot also be absorbed since water is not absorbed, although there are commercially available liquids designed specifically for oral rehydration. Many homemade remedies work just as well. For example, green coconut water or a drink made from yogurt and salt can be very effective. You do not need to learn by heart this, but know this because you are a biologist. There are many different causes of diarrhea. One of these is infection by bacterium, which causes the disease cholera. Okay, the bacterium can spread through water and food that has been contaminated with feces from an infected person. So if an infected person contaminates the water from his or her feces, then the bacteria can be transferred from the contaminated water, and if an uninfected person drinks or eats that food or drink, then he is also consuming the bacteria, and that's when the bacteria causes the illness. How? We will see now. This bacterium can be spread through water and food that has been contaminated with feces from an infected person. In places where bacteria are forced to live, people are forced to live in unhygienic conditions, such as refugee camps, cholera can spread very rapidly, because all of the people are very much close together and there is no treatment, there is no hygienic water supply. Okay. The worst cholera outbreak in recent times happened in Haiti in 2010 following a major earthquake that displaced thousands of people from their homes. At least 8,000 people were killed by this disease. You do not need to learn by heart this data. The cholera bacterium lives and breeds in small intestine. Okay, that's where water is absorbed. The bacteria produces a poison that stimulates the cells lining the intestine to secrete chloride. So the poison, the chemical produced by the bacteria, causes the intestines to produce chloride ions. Cells in the intestines to produce chloride ions. The ions accumulate in the lumen of the intestine. This increases the concentration of fluid in the lumen, lowering its water potential. So since the ions are produced in the lumen, the water potential here is lower than here. So water will tend to move higher water potential area to an area of lower water potential area, down their concentration gradient into the lumen from the blood vessels, and of course no water will be absorbed. Okay, we have learned this before. Once this water potential becomes lower than the water potential of the blood flowing through the vessels in the walls of the intestine, water moves out of the blood into the lumen and into the lumen of the intestines by osmosis. So osmosis was a very important chapter for us. It is related to many things in biology. This is why cholera is so dangerous. Large quantities of water are lost from the body in the watery feces. However, as long as enough fluids can be given to replace these losses, almost every person suffering from cholera will eventually recover. So now we have known the one of the reasons for diarrhea is caused by cholera, and the mechanism by which it causes it. The chemical that the cholera bacteria produces causes the cells lining the intestine to produce chlorides in the lumen, and thus lowering its water potential, and so water moves from the blood vessels into the lumen and definitely no water is absorbed. So large quantity of water from our body has been lost.